We've all seen the news stories and the articles talking about how AI is coming for your job. Well, it actually might be. Let's talk about what AI means to the professional ranks and executive level careers as we move out of this phase of AI into some more interesting phases of AI that are on their way. Welcome into the channel. My name is Tom. I'm the founder of Vertical Motion. We help good people become great leaders. There are links down below where you can learn more about that. Today, what we're doing is we're talking about how AI is really, and I mean really, going to disrupt basically white collar jobs at the professional level and even at the executive level. And you're seeing more and more companies, especially startups that are getting venture funding, they are calling themselves quote unquote AI first. And what does that mean? It means that they have AI do the thing and then they have humans fix whatever the AI can't do perfectly until the AI is trained to do it perfectly and they don't need the humans anymore. And so you can kind of see where this is going. A lot of organizations are going to be dramatically downsizing their white collar positions because they just don't want or need the people to actually do all the things that the AI can now do. Now, here is the really big caveat with all of this. AI is not going to replace your job. The person who knows how to do AI or use AI will replace you. And in fact, one person using AI may replace an entire department. So there will still be opportunities in this post-AI world, but you're going to have to adopt and change what works in order to actually be ready for those kinds of roles. So I'm going to dive into this today. We're going to talk about three things specifically. We're talking about understanding AI's true impact to the workforce, prioritizing uniquely human skills and what that means and why that sets you apart. And yes, hopefully you are human if you're watching this or listening to this. So hopefully you're human and you do have some prioritized skills that you can set aside. And finally, we're going to embrace some concepts around collaborating with AI. What does that look like long term? How do you grow to become a companion with AI and use AI just like you use the internet and smartphones and social media and other technology disruptions that have come across, the decades and centuries of innovation? All right. So while headlines like to spark fear because headlines are designed to drive clicks, right? And so headlines of articles and news things and things you see on social media, they're all kind of designed to drive you to like, oh my gosh, I have to click the thing to find out, right? And then they serve you some ads, right? I get that. But they like to over sensationalize a lot of what's actually happening here with AI in the workforce. But there are some trends that you have to be aware of. So AI's impact is a little bit more nuanced than you might imagine it will be. So first of all, AI, as it changes things, it's an automation of tasks, not entire jobs. So AI excels at being predictable. It follows rules. It loves data-intensive tasks where we kind of blank over when we're staring at thousands of pages of paper or hundreds of cells in a spreadsheet. AI loves that. And AI is great at that. And AI is a lot faster at those kinds of things than we are. So a lot of roles, quite honestly, won't go away, but they will be augmented by AI. And one of the examples that comes to mind was a friend of mine who worked for McKinsey said that she and her teams early in her career there would spend 6 to 8 weeks setting up a M&A deal a merger between two large corporations. They would spend 6 to 8 weeks working 100 hours a week, a team of 20 down in the basement to get everything ready for that M&A deal and, cross-checking numbers and everything and all this stuff. It was thousands of man hours poured into these M&A packages that were put together by McKinsey. Now, what's happening is AI is able to generate 95% of that package, and then you need a few people to skim through and fix and adjust and change anything that's in the package. And so that means instead of a team of 20 people working 100 hours a week for 6 weeks, you can have a team of 2 people or 3 people working normal hours for 3 weeks and get actually higher quality work done as part of the process. That's what's going to change. Another example that I like to use here is go all the way back to, most of you are probably too young to remember this, but go all the way back to the late 1980s. Back then, we used to have what were called stenographer pools. And these were pens where mostly women would come in and they would type memos. And what they would do is you'd have an executive in an office and he would pick up the phone and call the stenographer and say, Kelly, type me this message, memo to such and such, blah, 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 blah. He would say these things and then she would type it out and the memo would be then distributed around the organization as paper. Well, along came personal computers and the internet and email. And email decimated stenography. There were very few stenographers left in 1995 because executives were expected to email themselves, right? And so a company couldn't necessarily justify the cost of a stenographer pool if, quite honestly, it was easier to send an electronic message. So the art of stenography kind of fell by the wayside. We are going to see that again with multiple things that we thought, quite honestly, were always safe from being automated. We're watching a whole lot of things be automated right now. The other thing about AI's impact on society is that this is actually going to lead to some interesting job creation opportunities and business creation opportunities. I'm seeing dozens of amazing startups being formed. Even inside of our own community here at Vertical Motion, there's 4 or 5 startups that are spinning out. And these are entrepreneurs. They've decided they are AI first. And they are building an AI solution where it's just them and the AI software that they code. And they offer that as a solution to a customer and it solves the customer's problem. And so everyone is happy because now this startup was built on, the back of one person as opposed to a team of 4, but also now like the cost of operating that can be significantly lower than a true SaaS model, software as a service, which I think quite honestly, it's more like success as a service anymore. People don't want to just pay for some software. They just want to press a button and have their problem solved. And these AI first companies are seeing that and they're using these AIs to kind of move that stuff forward. And finally, in terms of AI's impact, some roles will be impacted more than others. If you are working in ethics, compliance, oversight, if your job is to kind of think like a human, quite honestly, about things, those things can't be outsourced. They can be augmented by AI. But if you are a copywriter, if you are someone who generates a lot of content, or if you are a proofreader of a contract or something like that, that isn't really adding a bunch of business context to the material, just making sure that it's spelled correctly, those kinds of roles are in jeopardy of being consolidated. And so if you are in one of those roles, you probably want to start figuring out how you can be the person who uses AI to do what you used to do, or else you might be looking for a new role in a diminishing market. So that was my first point, was understanding AI's real impact on the working force, right? We have to understand that people will be disrupted, roles will be disrupted, but they're going to be disrupted in a little bit more of a nuanced way than maybe the headlines are saying. So let's talk about bullet point 2, though, which is how you prioritize your uniquely human skills and how that actually will help you grow in your career in the right direction, not towards a role that's destined to be wound down and replaced. One thing to remember about AI, at least in the state that it is today, here in 2025, is that AI cannot really create an idea. It can find ideas from a massive database of information. And the more thoughts loaded into its memory, the more likely it's going to pull out some kind of nuanced idea. But the reality is that AI can't really create, at least not right now. So I hope this video ages well, but in the near future, I still don't see AI becoming something that can replace human ingenuity, creativity, our lust and zeal for survival and happiness and success. All of those things that make us uniquely, inherently human are really hard to replicate in software. Our cognition, our ability to rationalize and deduce and do math, those are the things that are being replaced, which would hopefully lead to an era where humans can actually come above what we do and be more creative. And we'll see if the billionaires let us go that way or if they wind up putting us into servitude. I'm not sure. It could be very dystopian. It could be very utopian. But AI, just like everything else, remember, it's a tool and it can be used for good and for bad. So understand that you as a human have this creativity and innovation. That's your superpower. AI can generate, but it can't truly innovate or conceive entirely new ideas in the way that humans can. The ability to think divergently, connect seemingly unrelated concepts and devise novel solutions. That's what's going to make you more powerful than the AI. And so when you use those skills in conjunction with AI, that makes you more powerful than the other creative person and the other AI individually. Critical thinking, critical problem solving skills. AIs don't have the ability to solve problems through critical thought. They can analyze what other people have said on how to solve problems and then rate and rank those solutions. But AI isn't great at creating its own solutions to problems that it doesn't quite understand. And finally, leadership, negotiation, empathy, building relationships, team cohesion, understanding human motivations. All of those things are not good by AI by itself. You need a human to lead. You need a human to empathize, right? There might be a system and a rule and a process that's set up that says this person has to be fired. And the reality is that they just got back from a cancer diagnosis and their mother passed away and they're having a rough week. And you really shouldn't fire that person because they've been an amazing worker for 14 years, right? Like, so that empathy, that ability to understand and contextualize information, that's always going to be in the hands of humans. And so as long as you're thinking about the world that way, you will wind up as one of the people who use AI as a tool, but you're not replaced by it. And finally, for my third point, what I wanted to do was give you a couple tips on how to survive the coming changes in the world of AI. First and foremost, become a lifelong learner. I remember back in 1993 when the internet was born and several guys in my college dorm were on this Unix interface on the internet talking to some girls at Penn State. And it was just like, what is this? This is so weird. I decided not to invest in the internet in 1993, which sounds incredibly stupid right now. But by 1995, I'm like, okay, I need to have the internet. And so like I was late to the party with internet. I was a little late to the party with social media as well. I'm not late to the party with AI, but I will say that I have chosen to invest in understanding the high-level concepts of AI and how AI can enable some of my workflows. I am not an AI expert. We have a few people on our team and in our community that are, and I rely on those people to tell me what the best way to do something is and then go in and use the AI tools the way that they recommend. But you can become a lifelong learner. You can absolutely learn something new. Let me just take a moment and say this. If you're not already reading a book a month or more, start reading, start learning. Join a podcast or a YouTube channel that is someone teaching how AI works. Try to learn these things. Be willing to grow in capacity. You don't have to become a programmer or an AI expert, but you do have to understand what is available and what's possible, right? So be willing to learn what you don't know. And this is an area where I would encourage you to focus on because it is absolutely changing the way that executives get hired right now. Learn to collaborate with AI. I like to work with Google Gemini. Gemini is fantastic. She and I work on these topics, right? Like, so she doesn't write my scripts. I don't use scripts. I try to be as authentic in my communication as I possibly can be. So I don't have AI write scripts for me, but I do have Gemini help me research a topic. And generally speaking, what she comes back with is pretty powerful and robust in terms of really good context behind, the bullet points that I'm wanting to talk about. And so I really appreciate my relationship with Gemini. Others use GPT, others use Claude, others use other AIs for different reasons, but pick one, start working with one and get comfortable with this. This is like search in 2000 when we started to, instead of like having all of our files organized in perfectly organized ways in filing cabinets, as they used to be called in early versions of Windows. Now we just put all our files in one folder and use search to find them. Or we just search the internet and maybe our files will show up too. Like search changed the way that we think about things. And in fact, we communicate online in search terms, which isn't really like normal English if you think about it. So now we have to reprogram our brains to think in terms of having an AI help us think through a challenge or a problem or something we're trying to learn. And finally, I encourage you to champion ethical use of AI. Like I said earlier, AI is just a tool. It's a tool that can be used for good or for evil. Guns are tools. Knives are tools. Nuclear energy is a tool, and it can be used for great reasons and for terrible reasons. And same with AI, right? I think we're seeing some things in the news lately about some certain AIs I won't mention getting a little Hitler-esque in their commentary, and AI can be used to manipulate a lot of people's thoughts. And so I encourage you to focus on encouraging your organization to use AI for ethical means. Don't use AI to learn how to better manipulate people into buying things that they don't need or that they shouldn't be using because it's not healthy, right? Instead, use AI for ethical reasons. And I think in general, we kind of want to focus on being ethical beings anyway. Right now, more than ever, we need a whole lot more people thinking about ethics in business than we have right now. So that's what I have for you today. Those are the 3 points that I want to kind of talk about. Understanding AI's true impact on the world around us, specifically for white collar professionals moving up to the executive level. Prioritize uniquely human skills in order to kind of set yourself apart, but also learn how to collaborate with AI. And so as you become someone who knows how to use AI, that is how you get promoted. That's how you get to move up and do more, because your choices are either ignore AI and suffer the consequences of not, being seen as an innovator, or accept that the way that the corporate world works is going to change, just like it did for stenographers, just like it did for mass media, people that made TV commercials. There's more money spent online in advertising than on television and advertising now. That was mind-blowing to ad executives in New York back in the 1990s thinking that could happen. We just have to accept that the world has changed yet again, and we have to grow with it. And if you want to move forward in your career, I highly encourage you to build these skills. And if you want to learn more about how you can become an AI-enabled executive, there's a link down below that describes what we do at Vertical Motion. We have a program called the Executive Career Accelerator that'll help you learn those skills. That's what I have for you today. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you'll understand that AI is neither good nor bad inherently. It can be used for good and bad. In either case, we have to accept that it is here to stay and is not going anywhere, and we have to be ready for our own growth in this space. And so I encourage you to go learn AI and become great executives. And I'll see you in the next one.